All right, we're now live. Good morning, everyone here on the call and who's going to be viewing this training at a later time. My name is Kyle Nelson, the training coordinator for the Colorado Virtual Operations Support Team. And I'd like to welcome everyone to our October training, where we'll be talking about a little bit about verifying and authenticating some posts and photos that we find on social media, internet in general, and those such things. So again, thanks all for joining us. You should have received the notification there on Slack and also by email as well. And if you want to go ahead and jump in, the link to the agenda is there. You can search that on the Slack channel. Go back to October 21st and find that. And if you haven't done so already, if you're viewing this live or after the fact, you're viewing the recording, please do indicate that you did view this recording in the new workbook that we have there as well. So jumping into things here, we have Melissa on the call live. We're rocking out this morning. We're hoping a few more folks can join us. However, we're going to go ahead and get into just a couple of things here. Mickey is not available to join us on the call today. So Mickey is our manager of the Colorado DHSEM Strategic Communications. She had a family emergency come up this morning, so we are keeping her and the family in our thoughts here this morning. She has also indicated to me, however, that there is some progress that has been made with finding a new communications specialist within Colorado Department of Homeland Security and Emergency Management. Ever since Nathan left, and then we had some turnover there. That's all fallen onto Mickey, including the managing the COVOST team and all those things. So really excited to hear. Hopefully soon. She hasn't given an exact timeline yet. However, hopefully in a couple of weeks we'll have the news on who the new communication specialist is going to be. And one of the roles of that new communication specialist will be managing the COVOST. So look forward to that. And full disclaimer, it is not me. I did not get selected for that position, so I'm looking forward to it as much as all of you are. Of course, keeping with our theme here, if you do know anyone who would be a good fit for the team, anyone who's pretty social media savvy, interested in helping out, even if they're already involved with another virtual operations support team, please do direct them to Mickey or myself, and we can make sure that they get brought on board here and go through all that process. And also moving forward here, looking ahead to the 2017 training calendar. It's pretty crazy to think about. We're going to be looking to add a few more topics on there. Calendar for 2017, there's plenty of openings there as well. If you or someone on the team, if there's a topic that you want to teach or talk about, something that you feel that the team could benefit from, by all means, please do send that along, as well as if there's any topics that you want to learn about. Perhaps you're not too familiar with one topic or another. Maybe you want to, there's been some changes to a tool and you want to go over that again. Definitely we can make that happen for you. And this topic actually on kind of searching and kind of verifying posts and photos on social media, this was actually a much requested topic. And so I was finally able to put a little something together here and hope you all enjoy it. And also finally, we do have the August and September trainings that we've had there. Those are up on the COVOST YouTube channel. Those are public. You can search and find those and go ahead and step through those training modules there on Slack, our new communication tool, as well as our brand new workbook that we have. There are trainings for both of those. So for our meeting schedule, we're back to a new day and time now moving forward, the third Friday of each month at 9 a.m. Mountain Time. We have decided to cancel the November and December 2016 meetings due to the proximity to holidays and other events that are occurring there. So we've decided that with all the great work that the COVOST has done this year, we're giving you the holidays off. So November, December, you guys are free to go about your business, spend time with family and all that. And we're going to be back with you then after this October training. We're going to be back. The first training of 2017 will be January 20 2017 at 9 a.m. Mountain Time. Topic is yet to be decided on that one, but definitely be looking forward to that. And in the interim, in between now and then, that's where we'll be passing along any information, on any potential upcoming activations or anything like that. Again, Mickey is not on the call, but as far as I'm aware, we are not slotted for anything just yet. So no upcoming activations or anything. However, moving along, just a reminder that we should all be on the Slack tool now. That's a communication platform. That's what we're using for all types of announcements, for training, for any alerts and such things. Tools that we had used previously, such as Skype and GroupMe. We are not using those tools anymore. We're kind of moving everything over to Slack. If you haven't seen the training on that, the August 2016 training on Slack, I go through some of the details on that. If you can't locate that invitation email that Mickey sent you, please drop her a note, drop her an email, and she can resend that. We're going to make sure everyone's getting into that room there as well. And also, just kind of revisiting last month's training very briefly, we do have a new workbook for the COVOST, and we just want to give a shout out to all the great people that helped develop that to bring us up to speed. We've added some tabs, subtracted some tabs out of the workbook, and really made it flow a lot better, I think. Lots of input there, including input from all of you as members. So if you haven't checked that training out, I stepped through all those tabs in detail, and we kind of look at all the different pieces that go into the new workbook. And in addition to that, we just want to make sure everyone has access to it. And just one thing, I did this to myself, so I want to make sure that you all don't do this accidentally. If you had previously bookmarked the default workbook for the COVOST, please go ahead and update the bookmark with the new default workbook to make sure that we're all operating out of that same new platform. So definitely get excited about that. Explore, poke around, and of course, the workbook is for the team. If you have any feedback on the new format, please do pass that along to Kyle, myself, or Mickey as well. So jumping into the meat of things here, we're going to talk today a little bit about verifying and authenticating posts and photos. And I guess to start off here, you can say, seeing is truly believing when it comes to what we see on social media or through any type of news outlets, perhaps. And we see what we believe is true, and sometimes we even see what we want to see, especially if there are events that are very taxing on our emotions as humans, or if there's a big high impact event that's ongoing. There are a lot of a lot of ways that we might not be able to where we might see things that aren't really there. We might see what we want to see as opposed to reality. The first picture there is a pretty famous one. This is a shark that's depicted here to be swimming through a street. This person appears to be taking a picture out of their driver's side window on their vehicle. And I don't know about you, but that would kind of freak me out. However, this shark in this photo seems to reappear at every major incident that tends to occur, any flooding incident, any hurricane. And again, this became very famous during Hurricane Sandy, the shark swimming in the street next to a vehicle. Now, using some of these tools I'm going to talk about here, just 3 tools that we're going to go through today, if we would drop that photo in, that photo on top, we would eventually be able to find this second photo here on the bottom, which is actually the same shark, but only here's the original photo from a cover or a page spread here from a 2005 article in Africa Geographic. So this just goes to show that anyone can create or curate or modify and then upload or share misleading content. So we'll talk about a couple different ways that people can kind of circumvent or maybe perhaps challenge our efforts as VOST members when it comes to collecting and kind of sussing out information and figuring out, is this something that we want to escalate? And of course, if this is something that indeed is factual and actual. So pretty famous case there. So for, again, these high impact events, these events or even emerging incidents, information that may be attention-getting or controversial can often appear and go viral on social media. Any of you members that were with us for the Trump activation down at the University of Colorado Springs, so presidential candidate Trump visited UCCS down there. We were doing some monitoring, as well as the I believe it was the Aurora Theater shooting. The Planned Parenthood shooting. We were activated for. During those events, there were several images and sentiments and things that were shared that weren't necessarily factual at the time, but because they were attention-getting, they were a bit controversial, they were a bit out there, those posts tend to gain a lot of traction. So we need to be very careful about how we go about, escalating this information, making sure that it's indeed kind of verified, so to speak, before we pass it along, if we have the ability to do that. So we have to be vigilant in identifying these things, and because our goal, of course, as a COVOST is to assist agencies in developing and refining their messaging efforts. They want to have them correct that misinformation and provide that actual information from them as an official source, and determining that there are rumors, false information, false images that are out there that are really gaining traction. That's going to really hinder that local agency's response, and that's going to they're going to start losing control over the messaging for that event. So we want to make sure that we're giving them good information and giving them a heads up if we are discovering this information that may not be exactly 100% true. So there's two types of analyses I'll talk about. The first one, any of you that are experienced with the media realm of things, you may have worked perhaps in either as a media partner provider from any type of broadcast or traditional media agency, or perhaps you've worked on the public safety side as a public information officer, public affairs officer. Any number of those TLAs or three-letter acronyms that you may have had. The first and foremost thing that we come across is, we're saying, well, is this real or not? It's kind of the gut check, right? We're looking at a couple of things. So source, date and time, and finally location. So I'll break each of these down. So the first one there, so the source, the account that's posting or sharing this information. The first thing, of course, is, does the account look real? This is pretty prevalent again on social media, where bots or automated accounts can pop up, or people may have fake accounts. They may be misrepresenting themselves or another agency perhaps. And the first part to go and start sussing that out is, well, say, when was their account created? Was it created the morning of the event or just after the event started? And how many posts do they have? Is it just one or two? Are they kind of spam-like, where they're posting the same image, say 100 times and tagging a bunch of different people that are using a common hashtag? That's something that we saw during the Alpine World Ski Championships in Vail a couple of years back, where we had accounts that would be spamming false information out to people that were using the hashtag associated with the World Ski Championships. We also can look at, from the source, how are they connected to the content or the story? Are they from that local area? That might add some credibility versus they're posting what appears to be on-scene images from across the country. And if there's all of a sudden it goes from them posting from their own backyard to now these on-scene images, well, that might raise a couple red flags. Also, how often are they posting? Are they do they post pretty regularly? Is this their account was inactive forever and all of a sudden it pops back up again? And if they do have their geolocation features turned on, or they're adding location data to their posts or their tweets, for example, just look at kind of where they're posting from, where they identify that location to be. And also, it never does hurt, as good kind of verifiers of information and social media savvy folks that we are here on the COVOST, to just do a quick Google search on their username, on their perhaps on their name or on their handle that they're using. If they have LinkedIn or other social accounts, try to cross-check, try to cross-verify. Is one of the easiest ways to really start to suss out who is truly, who is a reliable source or a more reliable source as opposed to a non-reliable source. So just a couple ways to think about that and start thinking about those. The next thing is the date and the time. Now, I'm going to talk about this here, and there's a couple tools that we can use to pull that information out of photos and things, but with regard to date and time, just with the traditional fact-checking, what's the actual time of of the upload on that that photo, that image, or whatever it may be? When was it actually uploaded? And just keeping in mind that depending on the local, like the clock settings on your computer's clock, that may change the time when the incident, or excuse me, the time that's showed when it's you're accessing and say looking at the current time or the posting time for that tweet, or that Facebook post, whatever it might be. Another way you can do this too is an example that I'll show is if they're posting, say, from an area and there might be a clock perhaps on the wall, or it's a screenshot and there's a a timestamp, say, of your cell phone. If there's a timestamp on there and you can see in that screenshot they took on their mobile device, perhaps there's a time on there. Does that match up? If it wasn't instantaneously uploaded, maybe within a couple minutes of them taking that screenshot on their phone. So just really kind of identifying, was this actually uploaded, at the correct time. Also, are there complementing reports? If it's an emerging incident or something is coming out, and perhaps this is an evolving event, maybe there won't be a lot of complementing reports right away. However, if this is a pre-planned event that we might be supporting, we would expect to see other complementing reports from, say, the same area if we're doing a kind of a geolocated search, or perhaps reports using similar hashtags or keywords, perhaps from other people who identify themselves being from that area. Look for some complementing reports, or is this just kind of a one-off sort of person that's trying to get something started, and you learn later on down the road that, and you don't see any more posts coming up about this thing. If it's a pretty impactful, it's a pretty pretty raw image, or something that we expect would start to gain traction and attention from local media outlets and such, and we're not seeing them pick up on it quite yet, then that may be cause for concern for us. And also, if we don't see any local agencies, public safety agencies, perhaps, again, news media outlets as well, sharing the same information or talking about some complementing reports or ideas, then that may also start to lead us towards raising some of those red flags if there's just this one-off kind of poster. Also, another fun thing to start looking at with date and time now is, are the shadows on objects consistent with the time of day that the image was taken? If it's, again, there's many factors that go into this, and it depends on how technical you want to get. I'm a little bit nerdy about it, and so I really do like to investigate and kind of look at the composition of the image itself. Are the shadows consistent? Do they look, maybe, is there a shadow coming from one object, perhaps not another object? And indicating that, oh, maybe there was perhaps some alteration that occurred. Is it consistent with the time of day? Also, if the person is posting and they identify their location as well, do their weather conditions or perhaps the weather history at that location jive with when the picture or video was taken? Perhaps if it's a beautiful sunny day and everything, the photo looks totally legitimate, but you Google the current weather at that location and it's saying showers and thunderstorms. Well, that might raise a red flag as well. The same way, another one that I tend to see as well is, again, this is very dependent on where you are in the U.S., but if, say, it's a cold morning and there are pictures being posted of people walking around in shorts and t-shirts, and they're saying, oh, this photo was taken this morning, that's going to raise a couple red flags as well. So you can start to kind of cross-check or verify these posts with other data sources as well, using, again, weather reports, maybe just a little bit of kind of that gut check, like, hey, something doesn't look right, well, let me look a little bit more into it. Finally, location. So again, what is the source's connection to the location? Do they live there? Might they work in that area? Again, a lot of this stuff can be found out using publicly available information that people may put on their LinkedIn profile. If you can find them, depending on what information they're sharing on Facebook. Do they have complementing accounts on other social media platforms? And find out if they're commonly posting from that location. So like me, if I'm posting from where I live here in the Roaring Fork Valley in like the Basalt Elgibel area up here in Colorado, just outside of Aspen, if all of a sudden I start posting many things from a different location, well, it could be that I'm traveling and teaching in that location, and I would usually have other posts that kind of corroborate with that. But if that stayed consistent, perhaps, and I'm claiming to be an on-site source, that would be inconsistent with my habits, because I wouldn't have a direct connection to that location that I'm claiming to be posting authentic photos from. Some photos are automatically geolocated, perhaps when they're uploaded. I know Twitter and Facebook, they like you to append locations to those photos, whether that be a city-state, whether that be a specific venue, perhaps a location, say like perhaps a restaurant, a building, some kind of landmark there, a geographic landmark that they may identify with, or perhaps folks are sharing, say on Twitter, the exact latitude, longitude that photo or that image, whatever it might be, or that post was shared from. So kind of looking at the geolocation, or perhaps it was modified or added after the fact. And use context clues again. Just be a savvy consumer of this information. So look at if there's perhaps license plates. Again, here in the U.S., people travel between states very easily. It's not always 100% guarantee, but you can start to look. Are these United States license plates, or perhaps are these foreign license plates? Do these things match up? If there's other things in the photo, are there signs, not necessarily say billboards, but are there signs with names of businesses? Are there street signs? Perhaps can you see other agencies or vehicles that are in the area with logos and things on them? Perhaps they have a city-state on there as well, or anything, signs with phone numbers, with area codes. You can start to use these and then cross-check. Okay, where is this area code? What geographic area does it serve? Where's that business located? Hey, is there a street sign? Okay, now I can plug that into Google Earth or perhaps Google Maps. If it's in a more populated area, perhaps you can have Google Street View and look and say, okay, based on this location I put into Google Street View, this should match up with generally what I'm seeing in the photo. Again, Google Street View doesn't update super often. However, generally you can use other context clues from around the area in where that photo was taken to really look and see, was this an actual, was this truly the location that the photo was taken? Is the poster, being truthful when they're saying, that it was taken, say, at this intersection, this area, or say within the region surrounding this city and state? That was that location tag that was appended to that post, that photo, or that image that was uploaded. And of course, it is, social media platforms have an unfortunate habit, I guess you could say, of at least from our perspective on the COVOST, of sometimes taking out the metadata or the digital data that's embedded in the photo when you take it. And so this can be metadata, also known as EXIF data. Don't ask me what the acronym stands for. I don't remember it off the top of my head. But the key here for us is that a lot of these photos, we can sometimes find them that have metadata or the original data that was put in them by the camera or device that image was captured with. And I know at least all smartphones now, they will append the geolocation or the latitude, longitude, and even elevation, lots of other cool data in that photo. And perhaps if we are fortunate enough to find a photo that does have this data in it, we can start to kind of cross-check this with where, again, that photo says it may have been posted from. So that's a little bit on the traditional fact-checking piece of it, and just a little bit on the metadata. Again, that's just digital data that's put in when that file or that image is captured and the file is stored on that device. And on a, say, on a PC or even on your smartphone, there are ways to look at that. That's native to that device. And again, it's going to be different for every device. For example, on a PC, if there's a photo that you've taken from your camera, your cell phone, whatever it might be, if you say right-click it, go to Properties, and then click Details, then you can go ahead and look at some of the information that's on there. I'll also be showing 3 different web tools, web-based tools that can pull out some additional information, even plot the photo, like the latitude, longitude on a map. All pretty cool stuff. And of course, mobile devices as well. I'll talk about 2 different apps that I'm familiar with and that I use to view the data on your mobile device as well. So getting away from the traditional analysis now and going into the technical analysis, this is where we can start to pull out and examine, say, the metadata. So when was an image taken or posted, and whether this information is stored in that photo or not, that image, say, that we capture. One of the things that we can do, some of the other tools we can do, is they can look at the history on the internet, on the World Wide Web, and say, okay, there are image identification tools, say like Google Image Search, for example, that can say, okay, this photo and the elements of it, it uses a photo recognition program, and it'll search through all the photos, all the internet history that Google has crawled, which is probably just about everything at this point, and it'll go back and identify what it calls visually similar images. So if there are different components of a photo, perhaps there's multiple photos that have been mashed up into one, that tool, say Google Image Search, can actually go and look up and see if there's any similarities between the photo that we have and other photos that have been posted elsewhere on the World Wide Web. So, for example, this is our first one here, and I'll just caveat this with doing a good job on Photoshop is it's a fairly complicated process for many folks, but of course not everyone. And this is the reality that we have to deal with now with smartphones and things, even being able to do pretty darn good editing jobs right on our mobile devices. So this first image here, this is an image here showing what appears to be, so we have a beautiful lightning bolt. Again, I'm a meteorologist as well, so a lot of these photos, examples can be weather-based, so just bear with me here. Lightning there, as well as illuminating a tornado, and what appears to be an oil derrick or an oil rig there in the foreground as well. So pretty compelling image, pretty nuts if I had to say so myself. And just looking at it, I mean, it looks pretty legit. You see the lightning illuminating the tornado. I mean, the lighting appears right, but that oil rig, though, it just appears a little bit out of place. Perhaps I would expect just the size relation between, say, the weather in the background and that oil rig in the foreground, something just didn't look right to me. And so I have the link to the image here on the in the Google Doc here on the training agenda for today. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead, I'm going to copy this. I'm just going to demo for you now the Google reverse image search. So if you, I have the links down here at the bottom here of this page. However, if you just go to say Google Images or images.google.com, you can kind of follow along with this. And what Google Image Search allows you to do is not only to search for images of things via text, but they also allow you to search by image. So you can either copy and paste a URL in like a direct link to an image on the web, or if you have an image that you've saved on your computer, you can go ahead and upload that. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to use the direct link to that image that I have of that tornado, lightning, and oil rig. So I'm going to go ahead and copy and paste that in and search by image. So Google gives like a best guess for the name of it. It tells me about it, and now we start to scroll down and we see visually similar images here in the search results that Google returns from the images. So if I click on this, I'm going to go ahead and just say visually similar images. I'm going to click on that, bring that up full screen, and now I start to see a whole bunch of images of, say, an oil rig. Here it's standing alone, and I see the same tornado, or what appears to be a water spout actually, and a lightning bolt, And if I kind of look and compare, well, there's elements, both of these photos appear to be mashed up in this one. So this is a big red flag for me when I start to see these images appear separately when I discovered an image of them that appeared to be mashed up. So from this, you can do a little bit more searching from here, but this tells me big red flag, X, no, this is definitely a fake or altered photo. And it also, if you ever search any of those photos, and one of the first things to come up is Snopes, snopes.com, that's a pretty good sign that what you're looking at is most likely some type of altered image. And this was actually from a oil rig. I believe it was back, that tornado waterspout. That was, I think it was over Lake Okeechobee down in Florida back in like 2004 or something like that. So a pretty famous one that'll get mashed up. So that's an example of a photoshopped or modified image, digitally altered. But what we're seeing more and more now with natural hazards, especially in these high impact events, is that old images are used out of context and they are linked to a recent news story. One of the ones, again, this is one of my pet peeves as a weather guy, this image here of the above normal snowfall map here across the entire U.S. and all these different shadings and things. And the little banner along the bottom there, if you can see that there on the live stream, that's empirenews.net. Now, this is a parody news site. However, people here in the U.S., we like to know, hey, how's the snowfall going to be for the upcoming weather season? And I've actually seen this map from back in September of 2014 rear its ugly head last fall of 2015, and it's coming back again here, fall of 2016, because, again, there's no science that went into this whatsoever, but it's an attention getter. And people say, oh my gosh, look, almost 2/3 of the U.S. is going to be above normal snowfall. Well, yeah, that's attention grabbing. People, they share it, they're retweeting it, and it's all linked back to this original story from back in 2014. So an image that's now over 2 years old as of the time of this recording is still coming back time after time after time, and that's a pretty difficult thing when it comes to trying to disseminate and share actual and real information as well. So for this one, for this image, what I'm going to do is actually use a tool called TinEye. So TINEYE.com, and that's a reverse image search tool. And I should have that Empire News map here, so I can, in this case, drag and drop right into TinEye. It'll upload that image and see if it'll work here for me. And what that's going to do is it's going to do a similar thing to Google image search, and it's going to look up all the instances of these types of photos and things showing up across the history of the internet. And so I'm seeing 16 results it's returning here for that image there, that snowfall map. And so things here, even as recently we see here, as it'll look at the date that it discovered that image on that site. So even October 2016, like I said, more than 2 years since it was posted, and even back to 2014 when the image was created as well. So we're seeing this image appear multiple places from multiple different pages and things. So definitely, it may be an authentic image. However, it does not represent or reflect the current conditions or things that we're going to be dealing with. So just two different ways that people can kind of crash the system or challenge us when it comes to gathering information as COVOST members during an event or an emerging incident. They may digitally alter those photos, or they may actually just share old photos or old information as well. And finally, there's a third tool here that I'll talk about, and this is a tool by a guy named Jeffrey Friedel. It's a data viewer, and the link is on here. So if you type in here just regex, so regex.info, so regex.info/EXIF. And so what that'll bring up is a page that looks like this, and this is a guy who has basically designed a website. Again, all these tools are web-based, and you don't have to have accounts on any of them or anything. These are all free and available for you to use. And what this does is you can actually just either copy and paste a URL or a direct link to an image, or upload an image that you've downloaded from your computer, and it will pull out that metadata of that image there as well. So one example that I'll use here, see if I can find one. This is one that's, let me see. So let's use this one here. So this is actually, sorry, can't drag and drop in here. I need to go ahead and upload this. So this is the one where you have to work at it a little bit. There's not much drag and drop. So the photo I'm going to use and demo with, it's going to refer back to a topic that we talked about just a couple minutes ago with verifying things with, say, a timestamp in a photo. And so this image here, I actually took and from my phone, and so what this is showing is a presentation that's being given by one of our COVOST members here out in, so on his slide it looks to be talking about something at the University of Cincinnati, so that's a context clue right there. Also just below that, again I apologize, this image is not exactly correctly rotated, just below that or to the right on the screen there's a clock there on the wall, and it appears to show about 3:04, I would assume PM at this time, since I know this individual is not a morning person by any means. And what this does is, since this image here is off my phone, it tells me here on the left what phone took it. Lots of other details about it if you're a photography nerd. Also, the date and the time that the image was indeed taken. So here, August 23rd, 2016, and it's showing so 3:04 p.m. That matches up with the time that I'm seeing on the clock, and it's also from the lat long coordinates that were embedded in that image when it was taken. This is telling me it's a best guess location. It gives me a address, but even a city state is good. So Cincinnati, Ohio, that's telling me that okay, this is probably an authentic image. The content on the screen probably wasn't doctored. This was indeed something dealing with the University of Cincinnati. And finally, if I keep scrolling down here, it actually will plot that the latitude, longitude, and based on the compass orientation of the image or of the phone when it was taken, it'll show me where it thinks I was looking at the time when that photo was taken. So this indeed is showing it plotted here down at a location in Cincinnati, Ohio. So this would kind of verify the information that's being seen in the image, so the context clues matching up with the data that's embedded in that image itself. So a brief bit on videos. I'll just be straight with you guys. I was not able to locate any free tools that are really on par with Google Image Search for looking at like the details and the data embedded in videos. Amnesty International set up an online tool that I have linked here. Unfortunately, it's fairly limited in what it can do. So what it does is it only searches YouTube, and it only checks if the exact same video was posted on another date on YouTube. So even if the video is modified slightly, if it is edited, it's trimmed, it's the parts of it are shifted around, it won't turn up any results. It's looking for exact matches only. So unfortunately, when it comes to authenticating videos, really it comes down to using those traditional means that we talked about. So looking at the context clues that are presented there. The local host agency, perhaps, if you pass the video along and say, hey, this might be something you want to take a look at, perhaps it's a protester demonstration, something of that nature. This is something that we had happen during the recent Trump activation down at University of Colorado, Colorado Springs, and there were some videos that were being posted, but we couldn't get any much data out of those videos, again, due to the limitations here of some of these free tools that are out there. And we were able to pass those along to the host agency, who has better kind of on the ground or that are knowledgeable about the area, and they can start to look at, okay, let's look at the different elements of this video. They can look at, oh, we might know where this is based on buildings and things that we're seeing, stuff that we cannot maybe necessarily interpret. I was not familiar with the UCCS campus at the time, so I was really not able to say, oh, that's this building here on the right-hand side of the image and this building on the left-hand side, so they're probably located in, this physical area, say on or around the campus. Also, if there is any, say, malicious acts or violence, things like that going on, the local host agency or the state of Colorado can, of course, pass a video along to partner agencies, more agencies with letters and acronyms and things that can have advanced video analysis tools to pick out information in the video, perhaps identify individuals, and things of that nature. So again, we may not necessarily be, the ones to kind of break the story necessarily, but if we can identify things that just, again, don't seem right or have content that's questionable, we can escalate those along, and again, it's providing that situational awareness, not necessarily always being the ones to lend that technical expertise. And also finally, a little bit of a takeaway there, the YouTube and Facebook, they actually erase the original metadata when videos are uploaded, and this also generally goes for photos as well. So to protect the privacy of the user, they will kind of strip a lot of that information out of those videos or those images, and Twitter will sometimes erase that, but not always. I've found that more often than not, Twitter will erase that. So just again, a little bit of a caveat. A lot of these tools that we're using are they're great tools. They're free tools, and I love them. And we won't always be able to use them to their fullest extent due to some of the limitations that are imposed, some of the data that's taken out by these social media platforms and tools. Finally here, on mobile devices, I promised I'd mention that. Again, I only had a chance to look up some tools for iOS or Apple devices. I know that these two tools, Photo Investigator and Metafo, are two apps. Those are the ones that I use and have found to be the most useful and the least restrictive, I guess, if in the free versions. Again, they can pull up the metadata. They can kind of plot things. If the latitude longitude data is in there, it can look at when those images were created and all that. They can pull that that data out if I would capture or to save a photo that I find on the internet or on social media to my device, and then I can put it into that. I can put it into those tools, those apps on my phone, and get some additional information out of that photo. I'm not aware of those that are available for the Android platform. Again, this is where I'm really looking to you, the members, to help me out on this. Again, these are iOS-specific apps. I'm sure there are ones available for Android that are really good as well. So please do feel free to share those. And if you come across any, or if there's any that you use, either iOS or Android, feel free to go ahead and drop those into the training channel on Slack so that we can all benefit and share that information, share that knowledge and those tools amongst all of our members. So I guess the bottom line here that I want to kind of leave everyone with is, of course, now you're saying, well, Kyle, you give us the positives, give us the negatives. So is it ever possible to be 100% sure that a photo, a post, or a video is absolutely fake or absolutely real? Well, here's the caveat. So through these steps, we can say that perhaps the metadata would appear altered. So the photo, it may have been modified after the date was taken, or the day that it was taken. It may have been, somehow altered. There, maybe the metadata just doesn't match up. The photo itself might look altered. Perhaps it appears in more than one place on the internet. That's a pretty good giveaway that, especially if that photo is appearing from a while ago, or it's slightly different than other images that we're seeing on the internet through the different tools that we've used, we can say that the photo may be altered or not authentic. Perhaps the details don't match up with the location that it's given in the caption. Perhaps the date and time are a little bit off, or we have that gut feeling that things just don't look right. So the big takeaway is that we can never be 100% sure that a post is authentic or a photo or a video is truly authentic unless we created that original content, or perhaps we know the person that created that original content. That's really the only way that we can be 100% sure that post, that information is 100% absolutely true and authentic. So again, it's not to take the wind out of anyone's sails, but it's to just provide that caveat, that little bit of kind of caution that we may use these tools to determine that the authenticity of one thing or another, but to say that it is 100% authentic and true, that's not necessarily a determination that we can make with absolute certainty. So just be wary of what's out there. People are getting trickier and a little bit more clever. And just a kind of a final takeaway here: something doesn't look right or just seems to defy the laws of physics or gravity or just reality, it's probably fake. For example, that photo on the top, a tornado or a water spout, anything, it can't bend light, up into it, and nor will we probably see the next coming of Cthulhu, I believe it's pronounced. I probably just alienated an entire generation of you here on the COVOST, but again, things that are they just don't seem right, they don't look right. Again, both of these images shared hundreds of thousands of times, but they're absolutely fake. So final thoughts and takeaways here to close this meeting out. If you haven't completed our August or September trainings, please go ahead and view those recordings there. I have the link there to our training table of contents. That can take you to all of our previous trainings, or you can always go ahead, go to the Colorado COVOST YouTube channel and view those trainings there as well. There's a couple of assignments associated with those, and of course, any communications from now on are utilizing the Slack channel. Skype and GroupMe are no longer in the game anymore. So all that we ask, though, is that when you're setting up or just going back and double checking your Slack settings, make sure that you leave those notifications on for the alert-notify channel on Slack. So the practical exercise now, keeping it pretty straightforward here. I didn't create a database of images or anything. What I'm looking to do is trying to keep it real and keep it relevant. And so asking you to go on and say Twitter, Facebook, pick your favorite social media platform. I know there were plenty of photos on Instagram as well of the North Carolina flooding that was caused by Hurricane Matthew. So asking you to locate 2 photos there from the North Carolina flooding caused by Hurricane Matthew in these recent weeks. Most of that is still ongoing as well, unfortunately, for those folks. But once you locate those 2 photos, use a couple of those tools that we talked about, and I've linked those just above there. Google reverse image search, TinEye, as well as that gentleman's photo viewer website. So go ahead and locate 2 photos and kind of determine if those photos that you found are indeed authentic. So if we were, say, going to search for, and again, I'm asking you to kind of use some of those advanced search topics and as your search strategies that you're probably familiar with. Say for Hurricane Matthew and in North Carolina, one of the things, for example, I searched for, again, this is just an example, I searched for hashtag Matthew, which the hurricane's name was Matthew, and the hashtag NCWX, which stands for North Carolina weather. So hashtag Matthew and hashtag NCWX is what I searched for, and then I've gone ahead and clicked on the Photos tab here on Twitter. So I'm only seeing, again, I chose Twitter. You can choose whichever platform you like, and I'm seeing all different kinds of photos and images on here. Pretty devastating images, and of course teams in action and things. But here's a photo, for example, of a van submerged and other vehicles submerged in water. Again, if we're talking about context clues, here we see Avalon town, maybe perhaps townhomes or something, or apartments. There it looks like, so we could get information from there. Also, there's a street sign in the left-hand corner. We can read most of that. So again, we can use those context clues to bring in additional information and to verify these. So if I was to, I'm just going to go ahead and click on this, bring up the actual image here. And so if I was to, say, copy the image address, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to drop this into, if I go back here, and drop this into Google image search once it stops freaking out for me. Stand by. Okay, go ahead and drop that URL of that photo into Google image search. So I just copied and pasted the direct link to that image from into Google image search. And so I'm not seeing anything there. I'm going to try just one more time with that van that's submerged in water, see if we can pick anything out here. Okay, that's what we're looking for. So we're seeing, just looking at some visually similar images. Apparently it's thinking that that van was some type of water transportation. Unfortunately, not the way that I would want to be driving around in that van. Not seeing anything jumping out at me. Just to confirm, for the heck of it, I'm going to drop that same URL of that image into TinEye and ask that to do some searching for me as well. It's kind of cross-checking between these platforms. And so TinEye is saying that, well, it couldn't find any other locations that image is present online. So not necessarily, again, 100%, but that's showing me that it's probably a pretty authentic image as well. And finally, if I come over here, if I say save this image, and I believe I've downloaded this already. My mistake, I have not. So if I just go ahead and save the image here, I just want to download it so I can again upload it to this this web page, or if I can go in here, I can just paste in that image URL, of course, and I can pull the information from there. Of course, the one time I want to demo it for everyone, it's not going to work for me. Stand by. Let me download this, and then we'll upload it, and we'll try it that way, and that'll be the demonstration of that third and final tool to pull the metadata out. Lots of tabs open, so the Chromebook is struggling here. So stand by. Okay, so we've saved that now. I'm going to go ahead and come back here. I'm going to go ahead and upload that file really quick that I just downloaded, that photo of the van floating there where that water should not be. Go to NC Floods. I'm going to bring that up. I'm going to say View Image from File. And once that comes up, again, with Twitter, like I said, a lot of these platforms, they'll strip some of this information out of there. However, we're just looking at some pretty basic info here. Unfortunately, not too much metadata that's left over. But if we were to take it one step further and start kind of Googling and looking in Google Maps for this area that we're seeing, perhaps the the name of those townhomes, perhaps that intersection, we can start to look and see where that's actually located. And if that is indeed in the area that this gentleman indicates in Goldsboro, or Goldsboro, however you say it, and just being able to kind of start to piece this disparate information together. As you can see, he also appended the location saying that this photo was from the Goldsboro, North Carolina area. Again, if we went and Googled and looked say these townhomes, this intersection up, we could probably cross-check that as well. So just asking me to do that for two images, North Carolina flooding and Hurricane Matthew. I'm not asking anyone to upload or anything like that. This is kind of an on your honor thing. I think we're at that level now, and so no need to upload. So the goal is really to become familiar with the tools that we're talking about here. And finally, just to close things out now, our next meeting coming up is January 20, 2017, my mistake, and at 9 a.m. Mountain Time. And again, please, just drop me a line on Slack or wherever else, or email myself, Mickey. What would you like to learn about, or what would you like to teach or share? There's tons of knowledge on this team, and it never ceases to amaze me. And I would love if all of you could share some of that knowledge as well, a topic or something that you're very passionate about. We'd love to get you into the training calendar, so please do let me know about that. Again, the November and December 2016 meetings have been canceled due to the holidays, so enjoy that time off from the COVOST training world of things. And I'm going to go ahead and wrap things up here and open it up for any final questions or comments here while we're still on the live recording?
Well, I think I'm the only one here, so I just wanted to say thank you, and that was really interesting. I didn't know about a couple of those tools, so I'll definitely look into those.
Well, excellent. Thank you, Melissa.
Yeah, thank you.
All right. Yep, we're still rocking here. So awesome. We're going to go ahead and stop the live recording here. That'll wrap things up. And just looking forward to seeing folks in 2017.